The Washington Commanders have a draft steal that is impressing everyone. If you're new to the channel, we're Detroit Lions fans, but we have this channel dedicated to teams and stories that just don't get the love nationally like they should. We're up here in Michigan. We're Michigan fans. So Mike Sainristil, we know a lot about. Watched him for 5 years at Michigan, and no surprise that he is doing things in OTAs and the reason we're bringing him up now is as we get closer to training camp and really start to dial in positions and where they're going to play. Sainristil is such a steal because he's in a premium position. You talk about premium positions, that nickel spot is so important because look, it's just the way the NFL is going. You've got your corners, you got your safeties, and then you've got that nickel guy who he has to be able to play the pass, the run, has to be able to cover tight ends, slot guys, wide receivers, running backs, whatever it might be. That nickel position is such a premium and hard to find really good players. So to have Mike Sainristil, who excelled in that position for Michigan in a pro defense, pro style, everything, studs all around him, doing their job, had to be on point. It's an absolute steal for the Washington Commanders. And you might think, why did the Commanders do this? Well, this article was really good because what they talked about was you looked at last year, there was a really good mix of defensive backs for the Commanders. However, it never panned out. They finished 31st in yards per pass allowed, interception rate, last in the NFL in passing yards allowed per game, and surrendered more than 30 completions of 20 air yards or more and came in second to last in interceptions. So we all know football, you got to run the ball, stop the run. That all holds true. But if you are giving up chunks of yardage through the air, it's impossible to win. And so you saw the Commanders that just have a difficult time last year because you're just giving up chunk plays. It's so hard because what that does is now the other team's in field goal position. They flip the field. They don't even need to score on these plays. But if you have 30 completions of 20 air yards or more, I mean, just roughly, right? Rough math, that was like two of those a game that went against them. It's just so hard. So again, the Commanders then use that to find a way to get and upgrade their secondary. And you can see where, and this article goes on to share where all those guys went. But you get Mike Sainristil. This is why it's important. And we'll get to Sainristil a little bit more. But if you look at the defensive side of the ball, and again, this is why we bring this up, because going into training camp, we'll see how this kind of all unfolds and who goes where and how it all works out. Because you've got Jeremy Chin, you've got some returning guys, but then at that nickel, is it Quan Martin? Is it Mike Sainristil? How is the secondary gonna all pan out? Can't wait to see there. Because remember Sainristil, he goes to Michigan. He's 5'10", 182. It's like, it's not that big. He's not small, but he's not big. But he's physical. He's tough. He's smart. He's in the right position all the time. It's like, okay. So remember when he went to Michigan, he was a wide receiver, did well at wide receiver. Then suddenly he goes over to the defensive side of the ball. And he was at wide receiver because the Michigan Wolverines had Peoples-Jones, Tariq Black, Nico Collins, and then they lose all those guys. So then he's like, all right, he's a wide receiver for a couple of years. Then in 22, he goes to corner. In 22 and 23, excels in the defensive side of the ball. Michigan's outstanding. He is, if you watch Michigan and their had defense was loaded, and you were like, who's kind of the guy though? Like, I don't know and it's like, there's a lot of guys you could pick from, but it'd be like, I think Sainristil is kind of like the heartbeat type of guy. It's like crazy. So he's the guy that revives Michigan, kind of takes over for Aiden Hutchinson from that role where it's like he's the leader of the team. It's crazy. He's captain for 2 years in a row. Ton of production. So he's a steal to get him in the second round when it's so hard to find guys that you need to play that position. So, and by the way, let me know in the comments. We've been talking about it a lot as we do these videos for other teams. Again, we're Detroit Lions fans, but just kind of looking out on the other side. Who is your favorite Washington Commanders player? And it can't be like a super obvious one. Who's that sneaky player that you loved? Mine's kind of obvious. It's Sean Taylor. Couldn't believe his size. And I was like, what the heck, man? Just kind of looking at his size and speed is crazy. And it's like, man, such a crazy story that was. But Sean Taylor, love that guy. Also, what you don't realize, unless you, I mean, Washington fans do, because you're over there. It's like Washington, Pittsburgh, New York. Everybody's like lumped in there. New England. That east side of the country is crazy. How many teams, like big franchises, are right over there? Philadelphia Eagles. Did I even say them? Crazy. So it's just bundled all together. And I love the. I've always liked the Washington Commanders. Redskins. I love the colors. I loved FedEx Field. It just felt like a massive stadium. So always liked them. Love to see that. It looks like things are going to turn around because again, Dan Quinn, defensive minded, new quarterback, like things are just gonna. It's gonna be okay there. It just feels like a lot of right moves. Ownership is revamped. I love what I'm seeing. So let me know your thoughts in the comments, and we'll see all of you on the next one.